Hey, I'm Carcoon, and welcome to the tutorial for LEGO Indiana Jones Artifact Rush. This is meant to be a fairly comprehensive tutorial of the category, including all the experience I've gained from playing this category, but I'd like to keep the intro yapping as brief as possible. And as such, I'll list what we'll be covering in this tutorial. Of course, the category itself, like what are we actually doing and what are the category's restrictions. We'll go through some pre-run setup and some good things to know, and then also the movie order and tutorials of each individual level. Of course, these will also be timestamps in the video description, and that way you can easily skip to the part that is relevant to you. I can't, in good faith, forget to, at the very least, thank the LEGO Indiana Jones speedrunning community and the LEGO speedrunning community at large. Words cannot describe how welcoming, friendly, and helpful all of you are. Really, thank you. Thank you for making this possible and for being awesome all these years. So we're artifacting and we're rushing. That much is clear. But what does this actually mean in practice? It essentially means that we're completing all 18 artifacts from a pre-existing file. We'll be doing it in free play with any characters and any extras we like, and we get to play the levels in any order. That is the gist of it. And if you want to read more about the rules and restrictions, you'll have to read about the rules on the speedrun.com page. So, to start playing Artifact Rush, we'll need the Artifact Rush save file, which can be found on the LEGO Indiana Jones category extensions board. So I'll just be heading there right now. You can reach that by going to speedrun.com/LIJCE, or you can simply go to speedrun.com and then search for it from there. So head to the resources section here, and then scroll down a bit, and you should see the Artifact Rush save file here. And you simply want to download that and extract it. So once that's done, you'll see this file here, SaveGames 0. This means that'll go in the first lot of the 6 slots you have for save files. So say if you wanted to change it to something else, say slot 6, you would change this to SaveGame 5. But I'll keep it as SaveGame 0. So simply copy this file. You can also use Control-C. And then you want to head to this directory. I'll put this in the description so that you don't have to type this out manually, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of this. So head to LEGO Indiana Jones and then SavedGames, and you'll see that this is where all of your save games are stored. If you don't have any save files yet, then nothing will show up here. But you can simply paste the file in here using Control-V, or you could of course also right-click and then paste. And then you just want to replace the file. So while we're at it, we might as well also download the Savefile reset script, and it's something that I made in order to make resetting easier, and it's just a small batch script. You'll also find this on the resources page, and you'll see it here as Artifact Rush Savefile reset script. You can simply go ahead and download that. And of course there's one thing you need to do first, though, after you download this, and that's change the directory where you store your Artifact Rush save file, or you simply copy the same path as I have here. You'll see that I have this set in the save game location and then a separate folder called AR. So let's check that out. So if we go back to where we had our save files, excuse me. Actually, I'll just copy the file path here. So if we navigate to this folder, we can simply paste this in the address bar. You'll see that I have this separate folder called AR with the Artifact Rush save file in here. So what this script is going to do is it's going to copy this file, and then this second line will simply put it where the save files are stored. So it moves this, it copies it, and then it simply replaces it. But the only thing is that you don't have to do this manually. You just click a single button here, and it does it for you. So make sure to edit the first file path, or just copy the same one as here, make a folder called AR, and then put the save file in here, and it should work. So, you finished the boring pre-run setup? Great! Now we can actually head in-game and load up our artifact versus save file like I've done here. First thing you want to do is to enable all extras. You can enable artifact detector if you want to. I don't, but if you're new to the category, that could be really helpful. Then you also want to make sure to call in your second player, like I've done here. Something you'll also notice is that I have an input display for both my controller as well as my keyboard, and that's to help you learn. If you're ever unsure of any inputs or similar, then that's what that is for. So now that we actually have everything set up, let's head into our first level, shall we? Alright, so we start off in 2-5. We're going to be selecting Indy and Marion, preferably the army disguise Indy, because you'll need to select the enemy boxer, which is 2 slots below the army disguise Indy for the level after this one. So the closer you are to him, the better. Time starts as soon as you confirm your character selection, so once you do that, the time starts. Right at the beginning of this level, we're going to be sending Marion to the right. You can basically just hold right. It's not that precise. You want to head into this hatch after that and activate the Fuggy statue. Then you just sit and wait for the artifact to spawn. After that, head to the right and then do some simple jumps to collect the remaining 2 kits in this room. There are a couple ways to play the end of this room, but both of them include a lag clip of sorts. Either you can do a sliding lag clip on the parcel box, or you can do a swap clip with a precise angle. I'll show the box lag clip first. As you see here, I've switched P2 to Indy, and then I'm going to drop P2 out and then swap over to them. You want to jump on top of the parcel box, and if you look closely at this post box, 2 arch-looking shapes, I'm not entirely sure what to call them, but you can see one on the left and one on the right side of it. And you want to aim your jump sort of in between that and the post box slit. Then, when you see yourself sliding, or right before you're about to touch post box collision, you want to alt-tab out, and then as you alt-tab in, you want to hold A so that you get a jump. After that, you need to cut pretty aggressively to the left so that you land on the out-of-bounds plane, and then walk up and jump up behind the gate. There is also a D-pad setup for this, but it might be difficult to do the out-of-bounds movement if you're not very good at switching to stick, unless your controller has notches, such as a GameCube controller. Moving on to the swap clip method, it'll start up pretty much the same, just drop out P2 and then swap over to them, and this time go past the post box and walk into this left corner. As mentioned previously, this swap clip requires a precise angle, and unfortunately I don't have much of a better setup than repeatedly swap clipping and gradually adjusting the angle. So that's what you'll see me do here. Once you clip up, make sure to switch to holding upright and then spam switch so that you up warp to the other side. From here we'll be hitting an out-of-bounds door which takes us to the next part of the map. And I like to use a visual setup for this. So walk into the far right corner, then walk forward and jump once you pass this black vertical line. Then you want to input your second jump once you're past the middle of this plank, the second from the right, and then hold down right as you see the ceiling start to disappear. You can also use roughly the same setup with a high jumper if you find that easier. I realize this level can be pretty daunting at first, especially if you're new to LEGO Indiana Jones speedrunning, so I tried to provide a good example of what 1B2C for this room might look like with casual strats, and as such I won't really comment much on it. It shares a lot of similarities to the other route, aside from pushing the cart forward in the room. Here I'll just be speeding things up slightly, since pushing this cart takes forever. Here I lag while sliding up the slope so that it's easier to make it all the way up. Then you just weigh this plate down, head over to the right to grab the final minikit. Then push the card in and make sure to swap to Indie on P1 so you get the correct character management. Coming up, there are 2 minecart sections. This is the first one. In each one, you have to kill 3 fuggies, smash 3 hatches, and collect an artifact along the way. And this means you'll be grabbing 3 per room. So getting started, you'll have a fuggy on the left. Sometimes he takes a bit longer to kill than you might expect, so just keep at it. Besides that, just follow what I do here. This room is a bit special. This one has 2 branching paths. Which one you end up on is random, so you might have to go around this loop several times, but I'll show you what I do here. So I hit the fuggy on the left, and then I managed to end up on the left path. Now this is ideal because you can hit both hatches this way. To hit the hatch that is technically on the other path, you need to pan up and then attack with P2, and this should, in pretty much 9 out of 10 tries, always get you the second hatch. If you end up on the right path first, you'll simply have to hope that you end up on the left path on the second time you go around the loop. Unfortunately, there's not much else you can do. When you come to this section with the track switching, you want to hit the switch late so that you'll end up on the other path the next time you go around the loop. Hit the fuggy on the right, and then collect this artifact to the left. And this is the second time we go around the loop. So you see I ended up on the right path, so if I missed that switch it wouldn't have mattered, but this is by no means guaranteed. And because we hit the track switch late, we'll end up on the left path this time around. Once you hit the last thuggy and hear the artifact collect sound, you want to immediately pause and then save and exit. And that's it for the first level. Right, so the next level on our list is Pankot Secrets. We want to choose enemy boxer and a Marion. And heading into the level immediately, we want to collect the kit on the right. Player 1 is going to get on the elephant, and you can start dropping in player 2 once you're past the mud pit there. You're going to want to send P2 to the left, and then P1 up here past the drawbridge, and P1's just going to stay there for the time being. You can just dig up this artifact, nice and easy. And then you can call in P1 once you see that they're on screen. This is easier on controller since you can pan, but either way, just grab the banana and the key, and then do this as you would do it casually. I'll also speed through this section since it's pretty trivial. So you want to kill these snakes and then whip across with player 2. And also, there's another dig here for another artifact. You want to spam a bunch of shots with the bazooka trooper to get rid of these snakes, as any enemies will make this skip impossible. So you can drop in player 2 here and swap them to enemy boxer. And you want to stand roughly where I do here. You can use like the 4th or the 3rd sort of pillar of the gate as a visual reference. You need to make sure that you're panning up on your controller, and once you do that, you can just start punching until you get an animation. There are 2 animations you can get. Either you can get the one which I get here, which I like to call the pizza toss. This is technically the slower one, but honestly, for the sake of a run, I just take whatever I get. But there is also another variation of it, which I guess is sort of like a hammer throw in a sense. And that's a faster one, and yeah, that's what it looks like. So once you're done with that, you just want to head to the right. You can do this small parkour section to get out of bounds pretty quickly. And you're just going to be walking here for a while. So you're just going to keep walking until you see that big plant right in front of you. And you can just shoot a rocket at that to reveal a kit. And then this is also kind of just a long section where you can do a couple dive cancels. There's another kit hidden in this wardrobe. You can just collect that one. And then you're going to be doing a clip. Essentially, you just want to get lodged between the wall and the bookshelf. And make sure you're holding down right, as my input display shows. And you should clip out every single time. From there, you can just walk under the door. And then collect the kit up there. You can also do some swap movement with this lever by simply swapping characters, and you can do that twice to get to this door. There's going to be a kit hidden on the right, and then right after that there's a kit on the left that you can just let Marion grab. There's the whip pad here, which reveals a skeleton you can smash for a kit. And then there's the final one there. So 2.6 is up next. We're back to using Indy on P1. There's a lot of kits at the beginning here. First off, you have the one right behind that metal crate. Just shoot it open with a bazooka trooper and then drop out. Then there's a kit at the end of this chase section here. So just do a bunch of dive cancels until you get there. Then there's a kit to the right, and here you do a lag clip. And you can actually stand on this bridge. And then you can up warp straight to the next section. There's a hidden kit in the trap there. Also make sure to deal with the fuggies, otherwise they're going to be very, very annoying. After that, just head left with P2 while they're in a bush. And you just want to push them so that they're above the rock here. And they can jump on top of the bush and lag clip once you reach the whip platform, and that should give you the kit. Then besides that, there's some simple 1B2C. You dig up the chalice and just hold up left and swap. And then you're going to use a bush again to do a bush clip this time. And this one's really easy. Just try to push your second player any way you can. And then you're just going to stand on the corner, and you're gonna hold upright on P2, and P1 should just clip out like that. This final room just has some platforming to do. Just jump on these pillars. You can do a small little jump here, and then just jump and traverse over these pillars. Jump up to this next section, and then reveal the hidden smiley face here for the final kit. So it's time for Temple of Kali. You want to have both players dropped in, which you could have from the previous room, or you could just do it at the beginning of this. It's not a big deal. But you want to make sure to switch to shovel characters on both players, because you need to dig up 3 skulls in total across this room. Make sure to whip across the platform with Indy, and then also grab the kit that's at the bottom of the bridge. Quite the tongue twister. Try it if you ever get bored someday. Anyway, switch to Indy to lag grab that kit. To get back to the right to progress the rest of the level, I usually like to stand here and spam swap, as that'll usually put me pretty close to where the kit is, but whipping across is fine and is sometimes needed if the AI doesn't pathfind correctly. But we can just use a high jump to get up there and then switch to any other character. so that we don't bonk our head on anything. Otherwise, these kits are pretty easy. There's one on top of here that you simply jump up and grab. And then we get to dig up the final skull here. Once you're done digging up the final skull, you can call in your second player and pull both levers as John Burton intended, or you can do a leg clip on the statue you see in the bottom right, which is what I prefer to do. If you're on Nvidia, this should work just fine, but if you're on AMD, I'll show you an alternative after this. So for this variation, you just want to land on the sort of left part of the ears and hold up. The angle's not very precise, but as long as you're able to land on this and you Alt-Tab in time, you should be clipping out very, very consistently this way. And from here, you simply move up and jump a couple times and you should hit the transition to the next room. So the AMD clip is very similar. All you have to do is jump into this corner. But the only difference here is that instead of holding straight up, you want to hold upright. And as with any lag clip, Alt-Tab, and that should get you through the wall. So from here, you're going to want to switch to the Bazooka Trooper and shoot a couple of shots to get rid of these fuggies. You also want to upwarp into this corner to make sure you get this artifact. And then after that, you'll just be jumping to the left here, and that'll make this platform collapse, which is what you want. This will let you access the artifact and also do a very quick upwarp, which you do by walking down into this collapsed pillar on the right, and then just spamming swap. After that, you just have one more artifact to grab, which you get by fixing this gearbox, which raises a platform. And you can actually jump during the camera pan to reach this a little bit earlier. And then at the end, I just like to switch back to Indie so that we have the correct character management for the next level. So 2-4 is one of my favorite levels. It has quite a few things going on. As per usual, you'll start with Indy and Marion, and you can just do some simple jumps to get past this first section here. Once you get to this part, you have two options. Either you go in the hatch on the left, or you go past it and do a lag grab, which is what I'm going to be doing here. So you want to be positioned on this part of the plank. The collision here is a bit weird, so you have to be pretty precise with where you're standing. You want to be standing sort of in line with the kit. Buffer a jump, and hold up left. Ideally you like strafe upright just before so that you don't rub against the wall, because you'll get less height that way. This strat can be a little bit finicky, but it should be pretty easy once you get some practice down. All you have to do is walk into this barred off section and do a swap clip, and that should get you past the wall. And from there you should be able to just spam switch a couple times to be able to upwarp here. And that lets you get that kit. Here's another lag grab. I usually lag twice just to make it a bit easier. Also make sure you're standing on the whip pad for that one, that's pretty important. For this next section, pay attention to my input display here. I'm holding upright on player 2, and that's basically going to guarantee that you never fall in the lava. Pretty useful for 1P2C. And from there you can just open the gate by firing a couple shots. Hello, Carcoon here. There's a new swap clip here that should be a decent bit faster. And all you have to do is, once you drop out player 2, you want to make sure you position yourself next to this box, or the set of boxes. And you sort of hold upright, and then do a swap clip. You have to make sure to jump as well. I like to jump sort of right into this plank here, and that should get you past the kill plane. And from there you can just sort of walk under the door. And that means you'll skip both the camera pan from the slave pulling the lever, but also the enemy spawning, which is kind of nice. But the rest of it works just as normal. So moving on to the rest of this, What I like to do is fire a couple shots to the right here to deal with some of the fuggies, and there's another set of fuggies just to the left. Didn't manage to get rid of them all, but it's not a big deal if there's a couple left behind. So once you reach the fuggy statue, you should start calling in your second player, and you want to make them head to the right so that they can fire a couple shots to reveal a blue cog. You're going to need that for later. You can just use Indy to whip it without having to open the cage. From there, you just kind of want to push Indy towards the broken generator. And of course, while Jock is fixing that, you can head over to the platform right here. Anyone familiar with any percent will probably know this strat. You can skip having to raise these platforms by doing a pixel jump. All you have to do is hold upright into that corner and then sort of twirl around, and that should get you up. This final section has two mini kits to grab. One is another skull, very similar to Temple of Kali, while the other one is just resting up there on the left. So send one player to grab that, and then have the other one deal with the rest of the skulls. And then of course you can do some character management at the end just to wrap everything up. Alright, we're in the final level of Temple of Doom now. Hope I haven't overloaded you with too much information yet. As per usual, I'm sure you know this by now, Indy and Marion. As you get into this first room, you just want to head left with player 2, so that Marion can jump up to the artifact. And this section has a lot of things going on at once, so I'm going to take it step by step. You can see that I've already switched to Fuggy, because I need to throw a sword at either of these gongs. Left or right doesn't really matter. But I also need my second player to blow up 3 metal tables. The first one's in front of the counter, the second one's behind it, and then there's a third one down right from the counter's edge. I figured it's also good to show you where they are as well, so of course here's the first one by the counter, the second one's right behind it, and the more tricky one, the last one, is over here. Right before you blow up the last table, you need to drop out your second player so that you're able to get swap movement. With a swap movement, you want to get pretty close to the bar door and then fire a single rocket. At full speed, the entire section should look like this. This is probably among the hardest 1p2c you'll be doing in the entire run, and it also has a lot of RNG, so if you find this too difficult, I wouldn't blame you. Just try to do it as fast as you can with one player. The first thing we're going to do in the second room is move to the left and also drop in our second player. We're going to do a somewhat precise jump to grab the minikit from below the tarp, and there are essentially two things you need to pay attention to when doing this trick. One, the position of both players, but also your jump timing. So just make sure to roughly copy where I'm standing, and then run against the wall, and jump from the middle of the flower and hold D-pad left. And then this should give you the correct camera, it should give you the correct position and the correct height to be able to grab the kit from underneath. There's also a conspicuous kit behind the red wall, so blow up the middle grate and then just lag grab that. As a small optimization, you can also do a redrop in here by panning the camera to the right and then jumping to the left with player 2. This next part is pretty simple. All you have to do is blow up the boxes that are blocking the hatch. The rest of this is pretty simple 1p2c to get 2 kits. Here's another redrop in you can do to save a little bit of time. Just copy the inputs and it should be pretty simple. You do want to make sure that player 2 has moved a good bit away from the kit on the ledge, otherwise they won't warp properly. This section is nowhere near as tricky as room 1, but it can still be somewhat difficult if you haven't done this in a while or haven't done it at all. So you want to start by jumping onto this rope first, and then you can sort of jump on the edge of those platforms, and you just bounce your way up with these tarps. And then you want to stand in the corner, somewhat close to the corner, the down left corner, but you still want to have some room to land onto the very edge here. And what you want to do is you want to bounce and then hold left the entire time, and that should end you up on this ledge. From here you're going to be making your way to the tarp on the right. And one little visual cue I like to use is this sort of shadow, and I think that makes timing the jump a little bit easier. Once you're past that, you're pretty much free to jump, and you sort of want to do an arcing motion when you're moving, sort of from like right to upright, and that should land you on the tarp. You could probably also lag in a pinch, if you think you're not going to make it. Here's the entire thing in full speed. So we need to get up to that hatch there, and since we need a little bit more height than normal, we're going to use a triple lag, and also start our first lag very early, and that's what's going to get us enough height to get up there. And the rest of this I'll pretty much just speed through. All you have to do is jump up below to grab the kit, and then the last one is just a matter of knocking on the door and playing the waiting game. So walk up to Raiders and then select Well of Souls. This used to be a 2 visit, but now with a new swap clip, we can actually do the entire level without having to exit and re-enter. So walk up with both players and then send P2 to the left corner here. Try to get an edge jump and then simply wiggle up left. Then when you collect the kit, just drop out. Jump to the other side and push the right statue into the wall. Then you're going to jump on top of it and then over the right wall. Turn left into the door and then walk up. Jump onto this barrel, hold onto the wall, and then lag once, and you should clip right through. Walk out of bounds, and then jump up once you're past the book puzzle. Here you'll want to do some 1P2C. With P2, you want to turn the key and then swap, so that it turns by itself. With P1, you want to swap clip in this corner, and then shoot this silver statue. Collect the kit, and then blow up the beige wall with P2, collecting that kit as well. Then you simply swap over and exit the room. Head back to where you lag clipped earlier, and then jump and hold straight right. Keep walking until you hit the wall and then simply turn left. Here you'll simply be pushing the box. Then when you're pushed in place, you'll have to use this turnstile. This turnstile can be very annoying because the camera is pretty unintuitive and usually likes to throw you off. And as a general rule of thumb, I don't move towards the yellow ball until I've pushed most of the turnstile, and that should hopefully avoid any issues you have with the camera. Copying what I do should also work quite well. So head back where you came from. There will be a kit in the middle of the room, collect that one. And then you want to lodge yourself into this corner, so just hold down right and then swap clip. Then you can up warp to the other side. We're going to be using the same out of bounds that we used earlier, but make sure you grab a torch. And you just wrap around this corner. And then jump up where I do. Throw away the torch and then jump over these gaps. Destroy the barrel and cobwebs and then enter this room. Here you'll just have to wait for the cycles no matter what. But just make your way across and collect the artifact. Drop in P2 and then hold up left. That should reliably let them get down to the rock shelter. Then you can just drop them out, whip across, and make sure to wait a split second before you call them in, so that they actually warp to you, not the other way around. Then pull these ropes to open the door to the next room. Start by switching both players to Marion, and then send one to the left here to pull this first curtain. Then you want to jump on top of this Sphinx staff, and jump on top of it to reach this ledge, then pull the curtain and start calling in player 2. Press both of the buttons to open the door, Then build the rope latch and jump up to the final bar. Send P2 down to grab the kit, while P1 stays up so that they can enter the door. This room has a couple of ways it can be played. I'll show the casual route first, and then I'll show the skip route. Step on the button and then walk across. Then you just bring back the missing book puzzle piece. You can also help push Indy with player 2. Although I wouldn't really recommend punching P1 or whomever is carrying the puzzle piece, but you could do it if you want to. Solve the book puzzle, then collect the artifact and exit the room. So it turns out you can skip the book puzzle completely, although this is something I would only recommend for ILs, not full game runs. Once you enter the room, drop out P2 and then head down to the bottom of the room. You want to roughly line yourself up with this line on the floor, and then walk off the edge and turn back in again. Doing this is a lot harder than it looks, as you have to be very precise with your height, as the kill plane is positioned pretty high up, so learning the timing is going to take a lot of practice. Once you're under the floor, switch to Marion, and then start calling in P2 to do a drop-in warp. Then you can walk under the book puzzle door, jump up, and collect the artifact. Make sure to enter the next room as P1 Marion and P2 Indy, then make P2 go across this web platform, and Marion will jump to this rope to get to this platform. Make Indy pick up the shovel, and position Marion by this bucket, then let Indy dig up these bars, and as soon as he's done, start panning upright on P1, drop out P2, and jump at an upright angle. Swap to Indy when you see that he's on the bar. If this somehow fails or he dies, you can still back it up by placing Indy where you dug out the bars, and then just reattempting the trick. For 1-2, you'll want to start with both players dropped in. Since you just came from Well of Souls, just drop in P2 when you first start the level. Immediately start heading left with Marion so that you can pull down this ladder, which will give you a key. Then drop her out and put Indy just about anywhere to the right of this bar. We're going to be setting up for something called a super jump, which is going to allow us to collect the kit behind the wooden mesh. So we're first setting a valid respawn point, which is why we stand to the right of the bar desk. Then make sure to copy my movement and press against the wall, so that you don't accidentally set another respawn point. Now just put them in this little hole, and this will activate a failsafe in the game, where the AI will jump back to its last valid respawn point, ignoring all collision. So when you see Indy jump, swap, and that should let you collect the kit. Make sure to call in your second player and switch them to Marion, and while turning the key, switch P1 to Bazooka Trooper. This will start a boss fight with Major Tater Tot. Unfortunately, we don't get to see him turn into a hash brown. You want to destroy this table and jump onto this rope, and then fire a bazooka shot at Tot. This will overlap 2 camera pans, so that you don't have to watch them both. Then jump to the rope on the right, collect the kit and then drop out. Then finish off the boss fight as normal. Luckily, this room is a bit more straightforward. Blow up this pile of lumber to build one of 3 snowmen, then call in P2, switch them to a shovel character, and let them dig up parts of the snowmobile. You want to kill these goons, and then join P2 in digging up the remaining snowmobile pieces. Build a snowmobile and then head through the 5 gates that spawn, while making sure to take a detour to this hut to collect a kit. After you run through the 5th gate, blow up the dynamite, and build a second snowman. Don't forget about the kit, and then jump to the other side. You can of course also jump on top of the generator and then onto the bars, to make crossing this gap a bit easier. Grab a torch and whip across to the other side, then make sure to call in player 2. Throw the torch away, build the final snowman, and then enter the next room. This room immediately has you drop out P2 and then do an up warp, which is roughly where the middle post of this broken fence is. So position yourself there, then hold down and start spamming swap. And that should get you up to this ledge where you can whip across to reach the kit. There are two ways of skipping this generator puzzle. I'll show the fastest route first. Jump into this corner and make sure you press against the wall. Then hold D-pad right, and you want to get a very late first and second jump so that you jump over a kill plane. And that'll let you walk over to the next kit. If this is something that you struggle with or you want another strat, then there is another way to get up here, but it is a bit slower. You want to stand on this white part of the generator platform, and then you do a lag jump, very similar to the one in 2-1, where you lag early to get some more height from your jump, and that should let you slide up to this ledge. The movement from here is mostly the same. So make your way to this platform and shoot your bazooka into this wall. You need to do this to not trigger the cutscene for Luke, otherwise that'll lose you around 10 seconds. Drop down to get the kit, then just jump back up and to the right. Now there are lots of ways to play this room. I personally opt to go for corner jump with VSync off, but if you want a comprehensive guide to all strats for this room, I'd advise looking at the in-depth any percent tutorial for 1.2. That'll cover all the variations of Marion jump, corner jump, as well as the pixel jump, and from there you can decide what strat is best for you. All that matters for this room is consistency. Once you make it over to the other side, make sure not to forget about the bug puzzle, then grab a torch on your way out. For the final room, you're going to be heading over to the right. Marion needs to end up on this upper ledge, which he can do by jumping off the fence post and then landing on the hook. Here's what we needed that torch for, so make sure to set that ablaze, and that'll reward you with an artifact. Then this is just a drop-in warp, also very similar to the one in Shanghai. Fix the generator to open the gates, then carry the Lego piece and put it on the base plate, and end the level by fixing your characters. For 1-1, we'll begin with both players dropped in. As you load into the level, hold left on P1 and down left on P2. That should line up P1 nicely for the kid in the corner, and let P2 walk pretty close to this buried idol, dig it up and then drop out, then head to the right, whip across and then jump across this chasm. You need a pretty good edge jump for this, then dig up the two remaining idols. You can get 2 jump dives off during this camera pan as well, to move a bit closer to the kit. We'll be skipping this door by jumping off the plant and curving around, and then we can walk straight into the transition. From here you can jump up to the lever on your right by jumping off some invisible collision. I like to jump from this spot, and then hold D-pad upright, and as long as you buffer your second jump, you should make it up every single time. Then you use swap movement to enter the waterfall. Swap over to the other player since they're closer, drop in P2, and then stand ready by the exit to be able to leave. If you find it easier, you can also swap clip to get up to the ledge. Repeat the same jump you did before, but continue to the right instead. Collect the kid on the left corner, then call in P2 as you approach these spear traps. This should call them in by the rope so that they can open the door. Jump up with P2, then whip across, then quickly drop them out and swap over to them. Put the box down on the bottom, and help Indy get across the spikes. Head into the nook on the left to collect another kit, then jump into this pillar and start spamming swap, so that you get an up warp. After that, continue diving, and open the gate by stepping on the plates, then continue down this corridor. And as it turns out, there's a new route for this room now, which saves about 6 seconds and obsoletes the old route, which I was about to show. So we'll start at the point where we're just about to enter the idle room. You'll notice that I have P2 dropped out. That's because I actually don't want them dropped in at this point, as we won't need them. So head to the right, and then when you approach the slope, you want to lag, and you should be able to slide up it. This should nest you between the wall and the platform, allowing you to jump up to said platform and blow up the metal grate. Call in P2 here so that they're close to the door. Grab the kit, drop out, and then swap. Then we'll be heading down to do a swap clip. You just want to walk into the rough spot where I am now, and it should feel somewhat like a corner. Then you just swap clip and jump up once with Marion. Or if you swap to any other character that is not a high jumper, you want to jump up twice, and then walk forward. So here you'll try to want to go as fast as you can, since we're trying to catch an early boulder cycle. Activate the Fuggy statue and then jump across. Make sure to pan your camera upright so that Indy shows up on the rope. And so while the camera pan happens, the boulder should roll onto the extended platform and into the door. If you showed up too late and the boulder did not roll onto the platform, then just wait one extra cycle. Then you'll want to head down to the left until you see the book puzzle. And I'm sure you know what to do with those by now. So I'll be speeding this section up a bit. So drop P2 in and let someone stand by the exit, while the other one grabs the kit. When you head back up, you'll have to avoid the boulders anyway. There will be one set of double boulders, and for those I just like to wait in the corner. They're usually not worth trying to skip. And from there you just make your way up to the door. And in this boulder chase sequence, for whatever reason, the AI is faster than you and will outpace you at some point. So whenever they're close to getting off screen, you'll want to switch to them so that you get a bit further ahead. And the whole reason we play through this boulder chase sequence is similar to 2.6, because of course John Burton had to put a kit at the very end. Why wouldn't he? Anyway, the remaining few kits of this level are pretty easy to get. First you'll shoot a bunch of bazooka shots at the skull. That way his jaw will slide open and give you a kit. Then you just switch over to Indy and make a mad dash to the left to collect the final kit. Not a whole lot left now, especially after we finish one free. At the beginning, you'll want to switch your players to Bazooka Trooper as well as a Shovel character, then do this drop and warp by running into this corner and panning upright. You'll also notice that Satipo switched from P2 to P1. That's because of the swap and warp, which is the exact same as a drop and warp, except you press the swap button right before the player drops in. So the Bazooka Trooper is going to the right to knock on the door, and Satipo will dig up this lever, as well as break a couple objects to build a ladder later. From here you just call on P2, and then jump into here and lag, to be able to grab the kit on the ledge. Then let P1 or P2 run to the door you opened, while the other player collects the kit. Now that was a playthrough of the room with no enemies, which is a pretty rare occurrence, and most of the time you're going to run into bandits. And these need to be killed, either before or after you enter the sub area, because otherwise they'll interfere with the trick we have to do. To be honest, I have no idea why this sub area exists. It just seems like a pretty bizarre thing to add. Maybe I'm just the one not getting the joke, but I don't need to comment much more on this. So this is an example of what it might look like if you get bandits. And one easy way to take them out is to use Marion and the Super Slap extra, and that should usually one-shot them. So regarding the drop and warp that I do now, if you look at the input display I'm actually panning up, which is actually incorrect. you want to be panning upright, and that should give you way more consistent results. And much like for 1-2's Marion Jump, Corner Jump, Pixel Jump, Chimkin's in-depth any percent tutorial for 1-free covers this much better than I ever could. So if you're unfamiliar with this drop and warp, or you need a refresher, I'd highly recommend checking that out. So for this room, you want to head down and knock on the door. Then you can head a bit further right, so that it's a bit easier for P2 to jump up to this whip pad. Then you'll just momentarily drop them out. Build the antennae and then simply wait for the kit to spawn. Blow up the silver bars, jump up and grab the box. Then you want to send one player down and let them walk ahead, while the other one stays up and pushes the box. Collect both kits and then do a swap clip on this table. You want to delay your jump here a bit, otherwise you'll jump back in bounds. Here you just want to jump in line with the fence, and then you can buffer a jump to make sure you get up. Collect the kit behind the wall, then just jump down and wrap around. Call in P2 and then lead them down to the sledge. Jump down and then drop out. There are two solutions to this upcoming section. Either you follow the intended strat of pushing a golf ball to knock the plank over, or you can punch boost Marion over to the other side. I'll just show the casual route first. So push the turnstile slightly, then jump up to the golf ball. When you've finished pushing it, it'll play a camera pan, and you can get swap movement during this. So use that movement to get a bit further onto the bridge. The punch boost is something you could go for, which saves a considerable bit, but it is something that I find somewhat inconsistent, so it's not something I would recommend going for. There are two positions that I like using for the punch boost. This is one of them, and you'll want to put your player on one of the lighter patches on this ledge. This one specifically. Also, one thing that I probably should have mentioned, if you're going for the punch boost, you have to disable Super Slap. Otherwise, you're just going to kill your player instantly. Once you're all ready, and I'd like to apologize for the audio in advance, punch, hold right, and jump the very latest you can, and there's a chance that you'll make it over to the other side. There's also this variation, which places Marion just a bit further up, and the inputs for this are identical to the other variation. It's just the position that differs. So jump over the planks. Then you'll just give this monkey a banana in exchange for a key, and the rest of this is simple 1p2c that you can follow, with the exception of the kit grab. So this is the kit grab that I mentioned. I'll show you my honestly pretty awful setup for it, and then I'll show you how it's done casually, which I find more consistent and probably easier too, though not necessarily as fast. So jump onto this ledge with P2, then walk across the bridge with P1, then right about when you walk past these barrels you want to stop walking, then you want to jump off the ledge with P2, and you'll be jumping upright and then up to straight around some strange collision, and this should get you up fairly reliably. I will say though that I really don't like this trick, and I don't think I'm alone in thinking so, and the alternative is just to do casual strats. So this is the easier variation of the kit grab. You'll want to pass through the hub so you can blow up the metal fan. That'll let you build a fan, I know, crazy, to get up to the rooftop to grab the kit. For the final room, there's just one kit to grab. You can jump off this flower pot that protrudes slightly from the wall, and that lets you jump up here, which leads to the ledge where the kit rests. You could of course also use the hatch right below it. Then make sure to switch to indie as you collect the kit. 1.5 will start out pretty much just the same as any other level. You obviously won't have P2 called in for the character selection, but you can just call them in as you start the level. Jump up to the underpassage with P1 and park P2 close by. This is important to do to be able to set up for a skip that we'll be doing later in this room. For now, just destroy the metal barrier and solve the book puzzle. Because we positioned P2 close to where P1 is, we can swap over, and that'll make the other player phase through the fence, and that conveniently puts them on the top of the platform, which we need to get to reach our next kit. So naturally, use the dig spot, click the kit, then swap. We're going to be getting up to this kit by using lag, and if you look very closely, the platform above has some sort of bend, and that bend is what you're aiming for when you're trying to slide up using lag. I also lagged twice to make sure I get the trick consistently. From there, you can make it over to the other side by jumping on this pole, or you can use the minecart and slide up the wall by using lag. This room is just about getting to the enemy access panel as soon as possible, and while you wait for the gate to open, you collect the kit behind the metal tank. Grab the exclamation point car, and then put it on the orange button, and that'll let you reach this platform. After that, call in P2, and put them under this tower. This is going to give you a good camera for the upcoming trick, as well as keep the enemies from annoying you. Normally you'd have to attach 2 ladders here to be able to reach this kit, but we can skip that by jumping on top of these boxes and then jumping behind this tent. And if you jump and hold down, then buffer your jump and jump to the left, you should be able to land on the platform. Blow up the metal surrounding it, collect it, and have P2 open the gate to a sub area with their bazooka. Here you'll want to destroy these lounge chairs and rebuild them into a moat. Then you'll just use the shovel character and sink these floating ducks. There is a rare chance of 1 or 2 of these ducks not sinking, and in that case you'll have to revisit this level later. This is caused by having a certain gizmo loop value when you enter the room, and unfortunately I haven't been able to document any of the relevant ones for Artifact Rush, but maybe in the future there will be a list of values to look out for to avoid artifact softlocks. But with that said, once you're done with that, you just head back from where you came, but this time you're going to walk to the right, and for whatever reason, the transition to the next room is wider than it should be, and extends a bit to the left, so you can actually just walk into the corner of the gate and be taken there. For this room, you'll want to dig a shovel with your box character, or rather the other way around, and you'll walk with that up the stairs while P2 takes care of these targets. And they too can also softlock if you're really unlucky. You'll want to open the cabinets in the hut to reveal a second box, and we'll be duping this one, since the third box is over by the targets, and grabbing it would be really slow. So pick up the box, drop in player 2, and stand in line with this post, as well as the top of the stairs. Then you'll want to drop the box down, switch to Marion, and then drop out player 2. Very quickly pick the box up and then swap to the other Marion. Then pick up the box and call in player 2. This should give each of the players a box to put down on the remaining plates. Build the gramophone and then collect the kit. After that, we have to clip behind this gate to reach an out-of-bounds door. That will take us to the next section, and this setup is probably by far the easiest. You want to align Marion's right shoulder with the rim of the wooden gate. Then pick up the anvil, walk straight into Marion, and then simply drop it. This should consistently push her out, and that'll bring you to by far the most boring room in the entire run. This room consists of waves of trucks and enemies that you have to defeat to be able to hijack the vehicle and progress to the next wave. Dealing with the enemies can also be very annoying because of the limited space and their evasiveness, but simply do the best you can for the first 2 waves. After the first 2 waves, an additional truck will show up with a mini kit, so of course go grab that and do any final character management you have to do. We're now at the end of Raiders, now that only 1-6 remains, and we'll have both players called in from 1-5. After you've loaded in, you want to position each player by these fences and break them, and this should make it very easy to blow up the metal hatches, and easier 1P2C wise to step on both buttons. During the camera pan, make P2 grab the kit, and also jump to the right of the improvised bridge. This will save us some time when we have to go to the far right corner of the room later. Drop out P2, then jump off this fence, and lag to reach the ledge. And from there you can climb up the ladder and grab the kit. Walk to the right and start spamming the swap button. This should at least bring you fairly close to the enemy access panel. Then you can drop P2 in again, and you can use them to click the kit in the water while you're waiting for the door to open. Here you'll be setting up for a drop and warp by panning the camera up left and jumping onto this platform. You want to make sure you jump far enough onto the platform, and if you want to, you can do what I do here and wait for Marion to both start moving, but also see that she's off screen. Then you need to jump off the rim of the boat to get to the artifact, then you can just drop out and exit through the door. This trick is called tarp jump, and it's not exactly the most intuitive trick. This tarp is covered in sliding collision, which, as the name suggests, makes your character slide. But there is a tiny piece of normal collision that we can jump off of to reach the ledge above. As for the trick itself, I like to stand in the middle of the box, and then hold D-pad right, and buffer my second jump. And this works most of the time. But it really isn't that big of a deal if you miss it, since it's pretty quick to retry. You can skip blowing up this metal gate by jumping off the pillar, and while killing these enemies is not strictly necessary, I do it anyway, and at this point you want to start calling in P2. Place P1 in the corner on the right, and place P2 on the other side. Pan upright and then drop out P2. You want to walk with P1 until you reach this middle post, then jump and drop P2 in, and walk back to the left. This should place P2 out of bounds, and from there you can walk up and then turn down to be able to walk on the out of bounds layer below and jump into the hut. Then you'll knock on the enemy access panel, drop out P2 and drop them back in again, and then dig up this kit in the enclosure. Blow up the birthday cake because it's Charlie's birthday, then swap to your other character to exit the room. Head to the left and then jump on top of the boxes. Do not blow up the metal gate as it'll start a camera pan, but do blow up the metal gate that has the 2 banners next to it. You'll want to enter the room with a shovel character on P1, and preferably a bazooka on P2. In this room, you'll start by holding up left on P1 and swapping 8 times at a consistent rhythm. This should get you close to the dig spot on the left, and this will let you dig and partially build the movie reel that's required for an artifact to spawn. And something that I'd like to note for the digging sequence in particular is that if you hold the B button to dig, you'll have to repress the B button after 3 digs or grunts in order to be able to fully finish it. And then you'll repress B again to partially build the film reel. Once the camera pan ends, drop in P2 and deal with the enemies, because they love to get in the way. Then you just push the reel forward a bit, collect the kit, and then move up the stairs. Send one player to the right to deal with the book puzzle, and let the other dig up the artifact hidden under this box. After that, it's just a matter of character management. So with that done, we'll be moving on to Free 1, and this is probably one of the hardest levels in the entire category, so look forward to that. The level begins with some simple 1p2c to grab this kit. And after that, we have bridge kit, or whatever you'd like to call this. And honestly, I'm not a very good authority on this. I don't really understand the trick myself. So if you're interested in learning more about this trick, there is an in-depth tutorial for this level for the any percent category, which goes over this jump. But the main premise here is that you're sort of aiming for an invisible piece of collision, and you're essentially jumping off that to reach the other side. Once you get to the other side, you want to start calling in your second player, and switch them over to a book character so they can start this puzzle, and fire a bazooka shot to get access to the bikes behind the glass. Solve the book puzzle, and then head on the motorcycle to run over these cones. Send P2 up to destroy the ice cream bar, and then build a hatch, so that they can get up to the minikit by the arch. P1 will be continuing to the left and destroying the remaining cones with the fuggy swords. To make P2's movement for this part really easy, all you have to do is hold left until you've passed this shrub, and then you can just hold up left to avoid these tables entirely. Collect the kit, drop out, and then get rid of the rest of the cones. Head back to the right and then switch to Marion. This is to set up for the character management later. Then jump down with short round, switch to Indy, and head into the door we opened earlier. Start this room by doing some type cancels, then animation cancel whipping the box to set up for duping the box. So pick up the box with Marion and then swap to Indy. When you pick it up with Indy, Marion will drop the replica of her box, and if it's close enough to the green plate, it'll put it down. You want to repeat this for all 4 green plates. Sometimes though, you place the box a little bit too close. And luckily, there's a backup that doesn't lose all that much time. Head to the right, and then jump into this hole in the bookshelf with some lag. And that should get you up to this box. And then from there, you can continue duping, or just plop down the last box and build this X shape on the floor. Before you finish building the last part of the X, make sure to drop out player 2 so you can get some swap movement. You'll want to swap clip using this flower pot, so just hold up left and then swap clip, hold up to get out of bounds and then turn back in, and then head to the left side of bookshelves. Up warp into the cage and then swap so that the AI super jumps back to the flower pot. Here we'll do a bar warp. You want to jump from the top of the flower pot and then hold right, and then when you see that your AI starts moving, that's a good indication of when you should switch. This will make you grab onto the bars, and then once you have, simply switch back and jump to the right. Blow up these silver objects to reveal a code. This code is always random, so make sure to check it. Then you want to knock on the door and call in player 2. And that's so they can whip the chandelier while this camera pan plays. Now you just want to match the Roman numerals by jumping on these buttons. Collect the kit and then jump into the pit. So once you enter the cellar, you want to head to the left here immediately, and you just want to run into this kit here and lag, and that should grab it. After that, you just drop out and switch to your other player, and then drop in player 2 again. Switch P1 to Marion and position both players like this. Not super precise, but you want to have Indy behind the pile of rubble here. And then when you get close to the wall here, you want to drop out P2, and you want to be panning upright or up. And you simply want to jump. And then at the peak of your jump, you want to call in P2, and they should end up behind this wall. And from there, you can just switch to them and jump across. Here, before you jump onto the rope, you want to pan up and call in player 2. That'll call them in slightly early, and that lets you pull that lever faster and get to the next room. So after that, just whip across with both players. You'll want to make your way up with both of them up these stairs too. And here's a very quick drop and warp. You're going to be jumping onto this rope, and you want to be panning up. And then you're going to be jumping towards this point where the two sort of arches meet, and drop in your second player. And that should drop them in behind this gate so that they can open the other one and let you collect the mini kit. And again, just do a quick swap to get close to this wall where you're going to be doing a swap clip. If you don't clip out on the first try, just give it a couple more attempts. It can be a bit tricky, but I'm sure you'll get it. And then after that, you want to push this coffin so you can reach the box and push it. You can also call in P2 a little bit early here for some 1P2C, but make sure that you're stationary when doing so, otherwise it'll warp to where the box originally was. So from here, just push the box with P2 and collect the artifact with P1. And here's a small little 1P2C section where you have to push these boxes in place. This is, again, one of the hardest 1P2Cs in the entire run. But a tip I have for you with the movement here is to make sure that you're a short jumping character like Indy, for instance, so that you can navigate the slippery water a bit more easily. Push the coffin and then jump into the transition to enter the last room. Here we have two different strats for if you're playing with controller keyboard or double controller. I'll show the controller keyboard one first. So both of these routes will start out just the same. You want to get into both of the boats with both players and then go around knocking these boys down in this particular order. So you'll start with the bottom left ones and then make your way up, go to the right, and then we'll reach our second to last kit here. So if you're on controller keyboard, you want to make sure you send player 1 up here and also position player 2 close enough, pretty much by these striped poles. And then also make sure to jump out of the boat with player 2, otherwise you won't be able to swap to them after. And then just lag clip in this corner here and jump up to collect the kit. Once you've done that, you can simply drop out and swap back to player 1 so that they can jump back into the boat and finish knocking down the rest of these boys to spawn the last mini kit. As mentioned previously, the double controller route will start out exactly the same. So you'll just be going around here, starting with the bottom left, and then going up and then right to take care of these boys. And the difference here is that with double controller, you can just do the lag on player 2, which also lets you stay further ahead, which saves some time, even though I didn't really do it here. Another thing I forgot to show is that you have double controller. Of course, do the drop in protection by dropping out with spacebar. Really important for this. And then, of course, you finish it out the exact same way. Run into the remaining boys, jump onto the platform, and then collect the final artifact. Moving on to Temple of the Grail next, we'll be starting with one player dropped in. We'll be moving to the left here with Indy and swapping to Marion. That way we can use our high jump to reach this kit here. Then after that we'll be doing an up warp to make our way up here. An important thing to do here is that you want to hold up for a little bit longer after you get your up warp. That way you make sure you actually clip out. And then after that, once you're clipped out, you just hold right. And then once you start to get to the level of the door, you just hold up. Activate the Fuggy statue and simply position P1 a bit further away. That way you're just ready to go once you've hit that artifact cloth, I suppose. And then from here, you'll simply do a swap clip. Make sure to pay attention to the input display if you're ever stuck. here you do want both players, so just make sure to drop in your second player pretty early, and then guide them towards this artifact over here. From there on, you can just jump on this feather, and that should get you up to this higher section. I just choose to lag grab that kit. You don't have to, but I find it pretty easy. Here you'll do a well-spaced jump to get to the other side, and the same goes for this jump. If you want to, you could use the other bridge on the right, as that jump is a lot easier. This is where it gets a bit tricky. So you want to jump up to this cog, and then you also want to jump into this sort of corner between the lamp and the pillar, and you're just going to spam switch to upwarp to this higher section. And from here, you want to make sure that you're switching to either Indy or Bazooka Trooper when doing this swap clip. Basically no high jumpers. This is pretty important for the setup. But you want to make sure you align yourself perpendicular to the beam, and that's going to allow you to swap clip. And then you want to hold D-pad right until you see your character get stuck, and then you simply jump once more and tap D-pad right. And then as you approach the door here, you want to simply hold D-pad right again. Somewhat of a convoluted setup, but it's the best one I've found so far. And of course, here's the entire thing in full speed, just so you can see how it's done in real time. So coming up on this section, there are two different ways of doing this skip. There's the one that I show here, which I honestly wouldn't recommend doing this, so I'm going to show you an easier alternative to this. And if you want to learn this bar warp, you'll have to do so on your own. So this is the strat that I recommend. All you really have to do is hold upright on D-pad and jump from this point that I'm standing on here, basically right above this shining light. After that, all you want to do is buffer your jump by simply holding the jump button before you land, and that should bring you across to these bars. So here we're going to be doing a combination of both an upwarp and a swap clip. So you want to align yourself roughly where I stand here. It's not super precise, but you want to make sure that you both lag and then also swap. And that'll let you jump up to this very conveniently placed platform with an artifact on it. And right after that, we're doing another swap clip. You want to make sure you're standing towards the middle or left part of the wall here. After that, make sure to swap clip. And then you're essentially trying to land at the very front of the retractor platform with a bar. It also helps to land on the rightmost part of it, since that's where it tends to have more collision. And once you land on it, all you want to do is jump and hold upright. This next section is pretty easy, so I won't be saying much more. And no, the death in the next room was not intentional. We're heading into the third level of The Last Crusade now, which is Desert Ambush. As you start off, just shoot this silver pole of sorts, and you also want to do the same for this silver pole, but just don't build it yet. You want to spam a couple rockets here to get rid of the enemies, and then also dig up this last silver pole. We'll destroy the remaining one later. But for now, just solve the book puzzle and move into the sub area. You'll want to shoot a bazooka rocket instantly, and then use the Foggy statue, call in your second player and switch them to your shovel character, and just position both of them on either side of the lion. So P1 will be heading towards the exit here, while P2 takes care of the actual kit. You'll also want to switch P2 to Bazooka Trooper. So head into the sub area and then grab the lion snout. You'll also want to make sure that you position P2 by the exit so that you can do a camera pan skip. And that's just going to let you do this room a little bit faster. So besides that, just collect the artifact and then also upwarp by swap clipping into this corner first. And then just tilting up left and spamming your switch button to upwarp to this kit. If you haven't already, then build this silver pole now and then destroy it for an artifact. But you also want to make sure to drop in player 2 so that you can set up the drop-in warp that's going to be done here. But before you get to this drop-in warp, you have to collect one more kit at the very top of this ledge. And what I like to do to keep player 2 dropped in is to pan the camera down. Either way, you want to position them in the corner above the two barrels, and then you want to drop them out, pan the camera up, and then jump towards this cliffside and start dropping them in. They'll appear behind the wall, and once you actually have control of them, you just want to hold up to hit the transition to the next room. And for repetition's sake, I'll include a clip of this at full speed so you can see what it looks like. So there's a chance that you might have blown up these barrels when trying to kill enemies or blow up the silver poles. And in that case, you can't actually do the drop-in warp, but there is a backup for this. Of course, you want to jump up here to grab the artifact, which is right here. And then you can head back to this wall, which you can swap clip on. Then from there, you can actually just walk under like so. You want to make sure to pop in right behind these barriers so that you avoid the reload trigger. And then you can just walk into the transition. This room has a couple things to pay attention to. First of all, you want to send P2 towards the tank so that Fogel stops shooting at you. After that, you want to blow both of these silver objects up and then build them into the oil rig you see here. After that, you're going to lag clip out using this bush. You want to stand on the middle of the bush and then just hold up left, and that should clip you out. With that, you can start moving away from the tank, blow up these silver objects, and build this water sprinkler. Also make sure to collect the kit behind the rocks. Anywho, since the oil rig is done mining, you want to send player 2 to the final artifact for this room. And once you're done, you can just easily drop out and have player 1 very conveniently placed by the bushes here for a swap clip. If your bush somehow ended up in another castle, there is a backup. All you have to do is walk a little further right past this set of shrubs, walk against the wall, and then swap clip. This is also a good backup for if you fail to grab the kit behind the rubble. And then to end it off, this final room has a couple easy kit grabs. You want to jump on top of the horse and then lag onto the slope so that you make it all the way up. And then you can simply switch to the other player who will be on a horse and make this short little jump with Marion to collect the final kits. So you're going to want to switch to Marion at the beginning here, and you can either lag grab this kit or you can blow it up with Bazooka Trooper. Then you switch back to Indy and you want to fire a shot at Fogel. Then you want to wait just a little bit before you actually jump up. That way you make sure you don't slide off. And this is pretty important for what we're going to set up to do here. So you want to stand decently far away from Fogel so that you can actually shoot your bazooka shots. And if you do this quickly enough, you'll break the fight script, which makes this boss fight a lot shorter. So after that, just switch back to Marion and hold up left into this corner, and then jump and lag, and that should get you across. And then you just solve this puzzle to get the key, so you can open the door for the artifact. Switch back to Marion and jump on this corner. That should get you over the roof. And then for this lag grab, you just walk into the door. I usually get the second try, so just run into the door a couple times and you should be able to get it. So here you'll have to do some 1P2C. Start by getting rid of the rock in front of the hatch, and then switch to short round so that you can actually go through it. And then on P2 you want to switch to Marion and stand next to the book puzzle so that you can quickly switch over to her. And that'll let you get another kit. Once you're past the tractor, you want to call in player 2 again so that you can collect this artifact here. Basically what I like to do is, once I get past the tractor with player 2, I just hold up left, and that usually gives you a pretty good line to be able to whip and then stand in the right position to be able to leg grab that kit. From there you just drop out and make your merry way onto the last room. So here you'll just keep on dive cancelling down this set of slopes. Once you get to this section, you want to stand in the bottom right of this ledge, jump, hold left, and then lag when you're about level with the ledge. That should get you up here pretty reliably, that way you don't have to use the ladder, which can be pretty annoying to use. After that, just keep diving and head towards the right, where you'll collect a kit, as well as dig up one of 3 sandcastles. Sometimes Indy will show up right next to you, as he does in this clip, but he also sometimes gets stuck on the left, which means you can swap over to him and end up a lot further on the left, which is good. And I'll show you a clip of that here. One thing that I did forget to mention is that this warp usually happens when Indy gets stuck on one of the bars, so if you're able to drop in player 2 and position them on any of the bars, that'll increase the chance of Indy being further left on the beach. Regardless of whether you got the warp or not, the rest of the level still plays out the exact same. Make sure to dig up this sandcastle here, and then keep on heading to the left. And then you can do a small little jump on this rock here. Simply hold down and left, and you should be able to strafe around the collision so that you end up on the other side. From there you just have one more sandcastle to dig, and once you do that, you just want to switch to Marion so that you have the correct character management. And the final kit here will be on top of this rock. You can do a couple of dives to make your way up just a bit faster, and of course save and exit as soon as you touch the kit. So for free 2, you'll stick with the usual. Right as you start the level, you'll see that you have a statue right in front of you. You just want to quickly switch to Bazooka Trooper and shoot that one. Then you can grab the sword and throw it. When you enter this room, you'll see a statue to the left, just blow that one up. And then once you get a bit further on, you'll see another statue to the left that you want to blow up as well. This swap clip here is pretty lenient. All you have to do is stand on the bench behind this table, walk into the wall, and swap clip. If it doesn't seem to work for you, you do have the alternative of simply using the Fuggy statue, which you'll be passing here on your left. It doesn't really lose that much, maybe it loses about 2 seconds I think, so this is not a time save you necessarily need to go for. Then the last statue is going to be to the left of these curtains, blow it up, and an artifact will spawn. After that, just head to the right and blow up this cabinet, and that'll let you build this hatch. And of course use short round to enter the hatch and collect the artifact on the ledge. Once you've collected the artifact, you just swap back to Marion, and you just make your way up to this whip platform and jump into the window. Whip across and blow up the enemies, and fire a couple more shots to blow up the silver object and the gargoyle statue. Build the turnstile, and then jump across with your second player to collect the artifact that spawned. This room does have some difficult 1p2c, but you can also just make it easier by splitting this into 2 parts, which is what I recommend doing. So start by sending P2 to this book puzzle, and while that sequence plays, you can make your way over to this section on the left by doing a very precise jump. I'll explain the inputs for this more in depth later, but I want to let the rest of the room play out first. So solve that book puzzle and wait for the artifact to spawn, drop out and jump onto this table. You want to land on this bottom left green part and then hold left while you jump. And you can just keep holding left for the next jump if you want to. Once you collect the kit on top of the bookshelf, you just push this other bookshelf in. And instead of solving the book puzzle, we're just going to walk into this wall, sort of at an upright angle, and then simply swap clip. But before we move on to the next section, I think we should revisit the fire room skip. So run up to the bottom right corner of this table. You can technically do the jump slightly further left, but jumping from the bottom right corner is going to make it so much easier to do this trick. Not dying immediately when you touch the table is a telltale sign that you're in the right spot. From here, tap up once, and then I like to buffer my jump, and then hold left, and then up left. And I switch between these sort of rhythmically, so it's like bum, bum, if that makes any sense. It's like roughly 100 BPM or something like that. It's not super specific, but you can of course use stick for the movement if you want to as well, but I prefer D-pad. And then of course the rest of the room plays out just the same. Luckily this section will be a lot easier than the fire room. Just do a couple of dive cancels and then walk into this wall and lag clip. You could blow this up or you could jump over it. Doesn't really matter. So once you're done with that, head back to the gate and swap. And here you can either blow this up or do a swap clip. The choice is yours. I'll throw the swap clip in here so you can see what it looks like. It's like any other swap clip, so I won't give any other further explanation to it. So shoot a rocket to knock over the radio tower, and then jump up with Marion here to knock over this gargoyle statue. You want to prioritize the knocking door since it's the bottleneck, and you have plenty of time to go back and collect the kit. To finish things off, blow up the silver chest of drawers and then put the missing puzzle piece in, solve the book puzzle and wait for the last artifact to spawn. Coming up is the final level of the run. Thank you so much for watching the tutorial so far, and with that said, let's finish the last level, shall we? So send P1 to the left and P2 to the right. P1 will pull the switch and then drop out, so they can switch to Marion. I'm just going to go ahead and show the trick first, before explaining it. So jump onto the sign. You want to get an edge jump here, in other words, a jump as late as possible. Despite what it looks like, you can actually jump a lot later than you think you do, because of the inaccurate collision as well as coyote time. If you want the visual reference, you can jump once you've walked past the white triangle sign. Once you jump, rotate your stick 180 degrees and you should land on the other side. Jump into the kit and then swap over to Indy. Just shoot a couple shots here to break the glass, and then use 1p2c to retract the pool cover and put one player in the pool. Then grab this box and put P1 in the corner. Make sure P1's holding up left. So you want to move fairly close to Indy with a box and then start holding up, and that's gradually going to push P2 closer to P1. You want to drop the box when it's close to being perpendicular to the lower point of P1's arrow. When you hear the box drop, you're safe to lag. So hop on a bike and drop out P2. Make sure to wheelie, you go faster that way. At the end of this mud pit, you want to stop wheeling, and ideally also let go of all inputs, because if you go at full speed, there's a very high chance that you'll fall off when trying to veer onto the ramp. Hey, this is Cartoon in Post. Doing this section with the motorcycle with the carriage is going to make this much easier, since it's much easier to make sharp turns with it, so do it with that instead of the normal motorcycle. When you destroy the second shrub, head down here towards the gate, and then pan right and start dropping in your second player. Wait a brief moment, hop in your bike, and player 2 should hop in theirs, and then you can just switch. Ride over the bridge and take a sharp left turn, so you break the third and final shrub. The next kit is very similar to the first kit in the catacombs in Free 1. Run straight into the wall, boost, and lag. Don't forget to also grab the kit in the shed. Coming up we have Fast Greg, which is somewhat finicky, but you want to stay close to the curb and you want to pan up left. Then once you pass this first green shrub, you want to jump out of the bike and start calling in player 2. This will put them behind the gate so that you can walk into the next room. If you fail Fast Greg, just knock on the door. There is a backup drop and warp you can do, but I personally wouldn't do it, and I won't be covering it either. There's a mini kit hiding in the bushes, so go up and grab that. Then jump on this ledge and into the door. You'll want to switch to Jock to fix this tractor, and in the meantime, you can put P2 by the garage door. Also, make sure to switch to short round so that you get pushed under the door slightly earlier. Head to the right with both players. P1 will be heading into this grass patch to reveal 2 carrots by driving over them, and P2 will be turning this key to raise the bucket from the well. Switch P2 to Marion and walk to the right. As you drive over the last grass patch and reveal the last carrot, jump out of the vehicle and then hold right with P1. As you start approaching the bridge, hold upright on P2 and then jump to collect the kit mid-camera pan. If you don't, that's fine too. And if you did fail it, it was likely because the camera was pulling P2 too far back. So just jump and collect the kit after the camera pan ends in that case. Drop out P2 to set up for the drop and warp. You'll want to jump on the slanted wall and pan up left. Then do a single upright jump, and then when you dive, hold right and call in P2. Something I also like to do is to hold upright on P2 if they call in on the edge like this, so that they don't die. If you ever accidentally auto-drop out P1, then make sure to move Marion closer to the bridge, so that she doesn't warp back over to the other side. As you see, you can drop out P2 and then swap over to Marion, and then lag while trying to jump over this gate. Here you just want to wheelie, ideally avoid the mud, and then just drive into the gate. Wheelie when you enter the room, then do 2 swaps and wheelie again. If you can, repeat this for the camera pan so that you get further to the right. Head toward the kit underneath the turret and then simply walk into the door and lag to grab it. After that, you're going to blow up these glass plates, which will sprinkle out seeds. Funnily enough, because of the way this kit is coded, you only need to sow a set amount of these seeds on the left, so just build the ones I do here. I want you to see this, but you can also just do 1 player if you feel that's easier. And these enemies are really annoying, so I usually like to punch them to vent out my frustration. And with all that done, this is the end of the Artifact Rush tutorial. Again, thank you so much for watching. I've been wanting to make this tutorial for quite some time, and I'm thrilled to see it complete, though I'm sure it'll be outdated in a few months. To follow the development of the category and stay updated on any new strats, or if you need any help with any of the strategies, please join the LEGO Indiana Jones speedrunning Discord. We're more than happy to assist you. Finally, if you have any feedback, please send it my way. This was my first time making a tutorial and I tried my best, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Maybe you have a suggestion for other game categories that I should make tutorials of. Let me know. With that said, I wish you all the best of luck. Peace.